What do waterfalls have to do with God? That's a really great question, but I think they have a lot to do with God. And if you stick around, I'll tell you why. There's a verse from the Gospel of John chapter 15 that says, "Just as the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in that love." And the truth of the matter is, waterfalls represent the love of God in a really beautiful way. You see, all this water is flowing down. And where does it go? Where does it come from? Waterfalls represent this endless cycle of grace, this endless cycle of the love of God washing over us. And we're much like that water in many ways. We flow through this beautiful reincarnation, this beautiful cleansing process, and then we go. We find ourselves all over the world. We find ourselves with a multitude of different situations in this life and a multitude of environments, carrying a multitude of emotions. And instead of remaining in the love of God, the cleansing process of God, being washed in the love of God, we sit everywhere else. We sit in envy. We sit in anger. We sit in jealousy, we sit in depression, we sit in fear, we sit in doubt, we sit in addiction. Think about your life. Think about all of the things that consume you. Think about all of the places that you've been stuck in your life. And the one place that you don't get stuck in your life, the one place that you don't seem to remain, is in the love of God. The one place that we are called to remain. It's interesting, as this water flows out, it flows to a multitude of different places. It goes to streams and rivers. But then there's a process that happens where that water is lifted up into the atmosphere, lifted up into the heavens. And it finds itself all the way back at the top of that waterfall once again. A reincarnation of sorts, representing the cyclical nature of our lives. The fact that God is always working on us, always cleansing us, always giving us new opportunities to step up and to remain in the love of God. So my friend, I've got to ask you, what does it look like if you actually sat in the love of God instead of sitting in your fear? Instead of sitting in your anger and your bitterness towards those people that have wronged you in your life, if you instead allowed yourself to be renewed and restored and set with the love of God instead of that hatred that dwells in your heart. My friends, we pour out so much energy to every other place except for God. And when we pour out all of that energy, we're pouring out energy to everyone except for ourselves. The one place that God is begging to dwell, right here inside of you and me. And I can't tell you that you're wrong for pouring any energy into the frustrations of your life, because I know what it feels like to be angry. I know what it feels like to be depressed. I know what it feels like to be frustrated, to be stuck in the patterns of this life, this negative, toxic cycle. But I also know what it feels like to be held in the loving embrace of God, and that always beats the negative cycle. That always shines a light that illuminates the spirit that dwells inside of me. And I have a feeling that you know how good that feels too. That you know what it feels like to be cleansed in the waterfalls of this life, to allow the grace and the love of God to wash over you. Now the only question is, do you know how to remain in that love? Because once you learn how to hold the love of God in your heart and shine it wherever you shall go, you will finally find the freedom that you've been searching for. It's all that easy, it's all that hard. Thanks for tuning in, folks.
These are your talks, dictator. This is the hope of God set free. These are your thoughts.